When Arya leaves Sandor by the trident, the situation looks final. He can't stand. He's bleeding. The wound is already worsening. He asks her to kill him, and she refuses. From her perspective, that's the end of it. She takes what she needs and walks away, and the text moves on with her. But there's something missing from that scene. There's no confirmation afterward, no body found, no report of his death, no one else referencing it as something witnessed or verified. For a series that usually marks deaths clearly, that absence stands out. So the question doesn't come from contradiction. It comes from what isn't there. Hello everyone, and welcome to Storyteller's Codex. Here we delve deep into the rich lore of the Lord of the Rings, a song of ice and fire, and the vast worlds beyond. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. The injury Sandor suffers isn't immediately fatal. It comes from the fight with Brienne. Deep cuts, blunt damage, and then infection starting to set in. By the time Arya leaves him, the problem isn't just the wound itself, it's what follows: fever, weakness, loss of strength. He describes it himself. He knows he's dying, or at least believes he is, but the timeline matters. This isn't a clean battlefield death where someone is killed outright. It's a slow decline, and that leaves space. Someone in that condition could still be found, still be moved, still be treated depending on who comes across him. The text doesn't say that happens, but it doesn't close the possibility either, and that distinction is what the later chapters build on. When the story returns to the Riverlands in A Feast for Crows, it's not the same place Arya travelled through, it's worse. There's even less structure holding anything together. Villages are empty or occupied by whoever happens to pass through. The war hasn't ended so much as broken into smaller pieces. Brienne moves through this version of the Riverlands, and what she sees matters for understanding what could have happened to Sandor. People disappear in this environment, not in a mysterious way, just in a practical one. If someone is wounded and left behind, there's no guarantee anyone reports it, no system tracking who lives or dies. Bodies aren't always buried properly, and survivors don't always talk. At the same time, there are still travellers, septons, small communities trying to hold on. So the Riverlands create both sides of the possibility. Easy to die unnoticed, but also possible to be found. And that uncertainty is exactly what the text leans on when Sandor's story comes back. Brienne is eventually directed to a place that doesn't fit the rest of the Riverlands, the Quiet Isle. It's separated physically, across the water, away from the roads, away from most of the movement, and it's separated in purpose. The people there aren't part of the war, they don't take sides. They bury the dead, care for the sick, and live under strict rules that remove them from everything happening around them. When Brienne arrives, the tone changes immediately. The pace slows down, the interactions are controlled, deliberate, and then the elder brother begins to speak. He explains what the Quiet Isle does, taking in those who are broken, those who would not survive elsewhere. Not just physically, but in other ways as well. This is the first point where Sandor's situation becomes relevant again. But it's not introduced directly, it comes in through description, through the kind of person the Quiet Isle receives, and through the idea that someone left for dead near the trident might not have stayed that way if the right people found him first. When Brienne speaks with the elder brother, Sandor finally re-enters the story, but not in a direct way. The elder brother tells her that Sandor Clegane is dead, and if you take that line on its own it sounds final, but he doesn't stop there. He explains that they found a man by the trident, broken, fevered, close to death, someone who had been left behind after a fight. They brought him to the Quiet Isle, they treated him, and for a time it looked like he might survive. The way this is described matters. It's not presented as a clean recovery. It's slow, uncertain, dependent on care and time. And then the elder brother shifts how he speaks about it. He says the Hound is dead. Not necessarily the man. That distinction is deliberate. Because up to this point, Sandor has been defined almost entirely by that identity. The Hound, Joffrey's enforcer, the figure people fear. So when the elder brother says the Hound is dead, he's not describing a body, he's describing something being left behind. After that conversation, Brienne notices something else. A man working on the Quiet Isle. He doesn't speak. He keeps to himself. He's doing physical labour, digging graves, moving through the space without drawing attention, but the details stand out. He's large, larger than most of the other men there. He moves with a limp, his face is hidden, either turned away or covered. None of this is stated as important in the moment. Brienne observes it, but doesn't dwell on it, and nothing connects him directly to Sandor in explicit terms. But when you place those details next to what the elder brother has just described, the overlap is difficult to ignore. A man found near death by the trident, a man who survives, a man now working in silence, no longer carrying the identity he had before. The text doesn't confirm it. It leaves the connection in observation, not statement. What the Quiet Isle offers isn't just physical recovery, it's separation. The elder brother explains that the people who come there are meant to leave their old lives behind, not temporarily, but completely. Names are set aside, roles are abandoned. Whatever someone was before doesn't carry the same weight there, so when he says the Hound is dead, it fits within that structure. The Hound isn't just a nickname, it's a function, Joffrey's enforcer, a man defined by violence, by reputation, by how others use him and fear him. If that identity is removed, what's left isn't necessarily the same person in a different place. It's someone who no longer occupies that role at all. And the Quiet Isle is one of the few places in the Riverlands where that kind of change is even possible. Not because it's easy, but because the structure there supports it in a way the rest of the world doesn't. At the same time, the identity doesn't disappear from the world just because Sandor steps away from it. Other people continue using it. Roger takes the Hound's helm and uses it while raiding. People who encounter him believe they are seeing Sandor Clegane. The reputation carries forward, detached from the man himself. That matters, because it shows that the Hound is more than just one individual. It's a symbol tied to violence, to fear, to the stories people tell about what moves through the Riverlands, and that symbol doesn't need Sandor to continue. So you end up with two things happening at once. On the Quiet Isle, there is the possibility of someone leaving that identity behind. Outside of it, the identity continues to act in the world, carried by others, and the text keeps those two threads separate without resolving them into a single, confirmed answer. By the time Brienne leaves the Quiet Isle, the text has given us a set of pieces, but not a direct answer. Some things are stated clearly. A man was found near the Trident, badly wounded and close to death. He was brought to the Quiet Isle and cared for. The elder brother says that Sandor Clegane is dead. Other things are observed but not confirmed. A large man working as a gravedigger, a limp, a refusal to speak. Details that line up but are never stated outright as identity. And then there are the things that remain outside of that entirely. The Hound continuing to appear in the Riverlands through others. Reports, sightings, actions that don't match the man on the Quiet Isle, but still carry the same name. So instead of a single conclusion, the text separates these into layers. What is directly told, what is implied through observation, and what continues independently. If Sandor survives on the Quiet Isle, it isn't presented as a return. He doesn't come back into the story in the same role. There's no reclaiming of identity, no re-entry into the conflicts that defined him earlier. Instead, what's suggested is something else, removal, a man stepping out of the structure that gave him purpose, even if that purpose was built on violence, working quietly without recognition. And the text doesn't confirm whether that holds, because outside the Quiet Isle, everything that created the Hound still exists. The war, the violence, the need for people like him. So what we're left with isn't a resolution, it's a possibility. That Sandor Clegane didn't die by the Trident, but the Hound did. If you're interested in The Lord of the Rings or A Song of Ice and Fire, click one of the links on the screen to dive deeper into the lore. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time.